Hi, I'm Dan from Perion Network, and I'm happy to welcome you to an episode of AdTechTalks by Perion. This is a series of conversations with AdTech experts about the happenings in our industry. I'm amped to be here today with our esteemed guest, Ben Flaccus. Hi, Ben.
Hey, Dan. Good to see you.
Ben is the managing director of commerce at Undertone, a Perion company, of course. Ben brings nearly 2 decades of rich experience in advertising technology and data, including leadership roles in both startups and established companies. Ben played a key role in developing a solution to demonstrate the efficacy of video and delivering performance against omni-channel outcomes, while helping retailers deliver metrics they care about, including return on advertising spend. Ben, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's written here that you are over a decade in advertising.
Yeah.
Did you have a life before advertising?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
What do you do?
I can't tell you.
No?
Look, this is kind of the second chapter of my career. I spent the first 10 years of my career in the political space. Worked on Capitol Hill. I worked on political campaigns.
Does it connect?
It does connect. You know, it's interesting. I worked at a startup that was really thinking about data and collecting data specifically around voter data, and how to use that data to inform better targeting at the individual level.
Yeah.
And modeling that data to understand, likelihood to vote a certain way or have an interest in a certain issue, and then using that data to inform personalization of outreach, of messaging. The shift over to advertising was really just an extension of that. And so I think a lot of times when we talk about, and we're going to talk about retail media today, we're really talking about just new ways to think about using data and these diverse data sets to inform, again, not just targeting, but to inform personalization, right, localization, messaging, et cetera. So I guess you could say there's a through line between those two aspects of my career.
Let's jump in. So today we're going to speak about retail media. And before we start to speak about, let's speak about the numbers. So I will start with something super interesting that I've just learned really recently. So Amazon revenues from advertising alone is $31 billion. $31 billion, just to put it in context. So in the third quarter of 2022, they made $9.5 billion in advertising revenue, while YouTube, at the same time, $7 billion. So this is huge.
Huge. And put in perspective, that $9.5 billion represents something around, or is on pace to represent, if you extrapolate annually, something close to 7 to 8% of total revenue for Amazon. Massive, coming from advertising alone.
So what is retail media?
Generally speaking, retail media is advertising on a retailer's site or in their app. That is typically advertising being done by brands whose goods are sold by that retailer. And it's also the use of that retailer first-party data across the open web.
Yeah.
And it's, ultimately it's really nothing new. I think the brands have always sought proximity to the point of purchase, right? And we've experienced that in our lives. It's been going on for a long time. You see it with end caps in stores and with aisle features and with in-store sampling, right? So this is just an extension of that world into the digital space, right?
Yeah,
so
but I think that there is some difference. I mean, because we see now like non-endemic brands that are also advertising retail. What do you think about that?
Well, and it's a huge opportunity. The retailers are sitting on incredibly rich data sets. And I'm eager to talk all about sort of the future and where endemic and non-endemic brands can play in this space.
Mm-hmm. So Ben, maybe you can elaborate a bit about why is it such a hot topic right now, retail media?
Yeah, look, retailers are bringing 3 incredibly valuable assets to the table. The first is the inventory that they have, right?
Yeah.
So that is to say, the ability for brands to reach consumers in that moment of consideration, right? Mm-hmm. When you think about it, it's really some of the most impactful placements that you can have, right? So we're talking about on a retailer's website, the banner advertising, the sponsored search on site. When visitors are coming to a site, when they're searching, they're engaging in shopping behavior, they're ready to purchase. So being able to sort of put an ad experience or a sponsored product there in that moment where the consumer is a click or two away from conversion, right? Incredibly valuable.
Yeah, so they're like in a shopping mode.
They're in shopping mode, yeah.
Shopping mode. And I think maybe this is a big difference. I mean, rather than when you are on social network and you're just browsing and passing the time, here you are actually...
You're at the bottom, the mid to the bottom of the funnel. You're ready to convert, right? Or you're in consideration. So it's incredibly valuable inventory. So the inventory is the first piece, retailer sites. The second piece is the data that they have, right? So retailers are collecting massive amounts of data, and it's incredibly valuable data. It's commercial intended consumer behavioral data. It's data about shopping and buying habits.
Yeah, because they practically know everything about us.
Well, especially, right. So retailers that are selling across multiple categories have incredibly rich data sets. Absolutely. That data can be used to inform targeting on site, to inform message customization and personalization in that on-site experience, but it can also now be leveraged off-site. And that, interestingly, starts to open up the window for non-endemic advertisers. So advertisers who don't sell goods with that retailer can now start to tap into that data and think about what it means to bring that data out into the open web. So, great use case, right? Think about all of the data that we are sharing with our retailers when we search for diapers or baby formula. We are signaling that we have
a baby.
We've just gone through this major milestone.
So now we can sell you
insurance
stuff, baby.
and financial products and a new minivan, right? So now you have data that has incredible value not only to the brands that want to sell you baby products through that retailer, but to auto manufacturers, right, and insurance companies, et cetera. So the data is incredibly valuable. The third thing that the retailers bring to the table is the ability to tie back, close the loop, and tie back to measurement and attribution. And so, that is everything from closing the loop around omnichannel sales, so understanding both online and in-store transaction behavior, but getting much deeper into percent new buyers, incremental return on ad spend. So there's a rich data set there that allows the brands to understand the actual impact of their advertising.
So to sum it up, you'd say that the amazing inventory, crazy amounts of data about the potential buyers, and they can close the loop.
Exactly right. Yeah. So three big pieces that they bring to the table there.
Super interesting. So if we talk about data, do you think that the changes on the perceptions and regulations and attitude to privacy also has impact on retail media and retail advertising?
Yeah, it's gasoline on the fire. It's a massive accelerant. So remember that retail media isn't necessarily new, right? Amazon's been doing this for over a decade now. They are the granddaddy in the space. So Amazon recognized without a physical store to monetize, they were early in recognizing the opportunity to monetize their data and their inventory on site.
So Ben, what's causing this acceleration in retail media?
Yeah, so I think the acceleration is really caused by three factors. The first is simply the rise of e-commerce, right? So we were at about 15% of total retail sales happened online pre-pandemic. We're talking about 2019.
Here, pandemic, 2020.
People go inside, they start to order online, and the behavior hasn't really changed, right? We are still, massive numbers of people working from home, right? Consumer behavior has shifted. And it shifted towards more e-commerce spend.
So that's the first one.
So huge. So 15% pre-pandemic, we're at about 22% of retail transactions happening online today.
Yeah.
So that's a massive shift. So that's one big accelerant. I think the second big accelerant is the erosion of third-party behavioral identifiers, right? So the cookie is crumbling, right? Brands need to find replacements for third-party cookies. Retailer first-party data is a rich data set.
It's pure first-party data. They can use it. There's
absolutely. Use it on site. Target. Exactly right. So that's a huge accelerator as well. And obviously everybody's looking to the future and trying to understand what the next couple of years look like with that deprecation of cookies. And I think the third big piece is just the disruption in media channels that's ongoing, right? Linear TV eroding, print distribution eroding, even some big challenges in the social space. Again, we're talking about the second wave.
By the way, this connects somehow to privacy as well, because the changes that Apple, how it impacted Facebook, and gave an opportunity to retailers.
Yeah, Meta posted their first revenue loss this year. By the time this airs, I think Twitter may be gone. We'll be saying, "What was Twitter?" Remember that? So I mean, there's definitely disruption in the space right now that's happening. So I think those are three big trends that are accelerating this adoption of retail media.
We understand why it's a huge opportunity for brands and why now. But what retailers are getting out of it?
Yeah. So retailers get access to an extremely lucrative and growing investment. For retailers who are used to, in some cases, razor thin margins, this is high growth, high margin revenue streams.
Do you have some examples?
Well, I mean, I think Amazon is the elephant in the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the acceleration of adoption in this space and projections of $50 billion in retail media spend next year. $31 billion of that is coming from Amazon alone. So when we look at that Amazon $31 billion on pace now for 40 billion, right, next year.
Yeah, and that's all. $50 billion, if I'm correct. So in the US, the total media turnaround is around 300. So that's substantial.
Yeah, we're talking about by next year, 1 in 5 ad dollars being spent through retail media networks. So massive opportunity for retailers.
We constantly talk about Amazon, but there are other players in the space. So maybe share a bit about that.
Well, who isn't playing in the space right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, Amazon is the granddaddy. Walmart, Target were quick to adopt. At this point, we can really think about all the different categories of retail. So from mass merch retailers like Walmart and Target, Roundel, who have incredibly rich data sets just given the breadth of categories that they cover.
It's also CVS and Walgreens.
Right, so into exactly retail categories like drug, where Walgreens advertising group and CVS has stood up their CMX, their CVS Media Exchange. Home improvement with Retail Media Plus from Home Depot and Lowe's One Roof, grocery retailers like Kroger Precision Marketing and last March.
I must say that I even saw some sponsored ads at Bloomingdale's website. So this is.
I mean, it's 7-Eleven launching their retail media network, right? So we are getting into anybody who has data, who has inventory, wants a piece of this. Yeah, exactly. And then I think the last piece of that are the folks who are living in that last mile fulfillment space, the Instacarts, the GoPuffs, and the DoorDashes who are also standing up their retail media network. So you don't have to be a true retailer. You can be in sort of an intermediary and still monetize that data and the inventory that you have access to.
What about Uber?
Similarly, right?
Same story.
Exactly right. Yeah, right there with DoorDash and other fulfillment partners. Yeah. I mean, so I think it's important to remember that this is still early days. How brands activate, what that channel looks like, whether it's managed service or self-service, right? All of this varies across the industry from retailer to retailer, and it's changing, right? Walmart Media Group was managed service. They launched Walmart Connect in partnership with the Trade Desk to bring their data into a DSP where brands could access it in a self-service manner.
It all sounds super exciting, Ben, but I'm sure that there are challenges. So what are the challenges?
So there are some challenges. The first big challenge is going to be the limitation of just inventory on site, right?
Yeah.
You can only accept such an ad load until you really detract from the consumer experience. Ultimately, this is a site where consumers are going to transact, and so if there are too many ads, it can be a poor experience for the consumer. So inventory is limited. Similarly, the ability to take that data and express it out across the open web is going to be limited in the future by the same challenges around identifiers, right? So those are challenges. I think there are some other interesting challenges that I've run into, and I've started to hear, surprisingly, I think in my mind, I've heard some pushback from some brands who are feeling, maybe a way to put it is a little bit of platform fatigue, having to work across lots and lots of different.
So now they need people or agencies to manage social. They got used to it. To manage search, they got used to it, and now there are different platforms.
Yeah.
Difficult.
So I think there's a lot of opportunity in those challenges for disruption in the space. And that's an area that personally I'm very excited about, because I think we have some interesting opportunities to start to solve for some of those challenges for our brand partners.
Okay, so sure, that's the interesting part.
Yeah,
please. So what do you see as an opportunity, and in the limited what you can disclose, share with us.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think if the current ecosystem is a microcosm of the larger advertising ecosystem, there's always a place for programmatic advertising, and there's a space for more impactful, more creative execution. And I think what we're doing in this space is particularly interesting, is the way that we think about using this rich data set. which frankly is not only being used to target consumers and individually, but to go much deeper into audience subsegmentation, and crucially to align that audience subsegmentation with dynamic offer content, messaging, personalization, localization. So fundamentally, the way that we're thinking about using this data is just different. It's understanding how to use it to target, but also to inform all of the messaging that we want to put in front of the consumer. That idea that we can combine two unique value propositions, the first being that Undertone ability to cut through the clutter and reach a consumer in a way that's engaging and impactful and unmissable, coupled with our ability to create much more relevant ad experiences, and to demonstrate, as we continue to do, that ability to drive relevancy is the key to unlocking performance, that more relevant ad experiences fundamentally will drive the outcomes that retailers and brands care about. So that is the path to driving incremental store traffic and online site visitation and conversion, transactions, and sales lift and return on ad spend. So that's where I think there's a really great place for Undertone to start to come in as a version 2.0, is it fair to say? The next iteration, an opportunity for brands to think about what it means to bring personalized messaging into high impact display, into dynamic online video, into dynamic connected TV.
High impact display, just explain, what do you mean by that?
We're talking about unique ad experiences, right, based in a creative foundation that Undertone is known for. So incredibly advanced creative services that build beautiful, engaging creative, always has added value, including, by the way, the ability to create and deploy dynamic video as added value. And a premium publisher network with the certifications to be able to run these non-standard ad types. That's really kind of the secret sauce of Undertone. Everything that we are now doing in the commerce space sits on top of that foundation that's been in place for 20 years, which again, it really comes down to unique ad formats that are engaging, unmissable, backed by creative services that are beautiful, unparalleled, incredible value in our creative services. And then the data-driven element, the ability to now personalize the content, the messaging, to optimize based not only on media, where did the ad run, or audience who saw the ad, but this third leg, which is what was the message, what was the content that we put in front of that consumer. So optimization based on creative performance is really the secret sauce for us to be able to drive the performance increases that we're seeing.
So what do you feel comes next for retail media?
Continued growth, right? The investment is there. It's going to continue. Retailers continuing to stand up new retail media networks to take advantage and monetize the space. More opportunities for non-endemic brands to tap into this rich data set, right? So again, it's the auto manufacturers and insurance companies and telcos who want access to this data, this incredibly rich behavioral data. But I also think there's massive opportunity to move up the funnel, right? So if today's brands are spending, and the spend is coming out of sort of e-commerce or shopper and trade investment, the opportunity for retailers to start to capture national brand dollars. And that's going to require that they start to think about, right, the formats and the channels that are relevant there. And that means thinking about things like high impact that can compress the funnel or deliver more full funnel messaging or move up the funnel. It's more video. It's more connected TV, right? And that's another place where I think Undertone is going to be in a great position. I think one of the things that in conversation with retailers that's resonated is our unique ability as an organization that has traditionally lived probably closer to the top of the funnel and now is sort of developing and deploying or has deployed these full funnel messaging solutions. That ability to help retailers start to capture those national brand dollars, start to help their brand partners deliver those sort of combination of awareness, move the consumer down into consideration, into conversion within a single ad experience. And that's, again, that's Undertone's unique ability to deploy high impact display ads that are engaging, interactive, unmissable, right? Combined with robust personalization, shoppability, all of those features. but also the work that we're now doing in the video space, right? So deploying truly dynamic, personalized video, which is near and dear to my heart. Deploying that across connected TV as well. So we can actually deploy connected TV ads that are personalized, that are co-branded, that are aligned to your interests, that show real-time offer content to you as a consumer, show you where your closest store is. And then, crucially, our ability to optimize across all these channels. So in connected TV, where we're not getting feedback, right? You're not engaging necessarily with the ad itself. Our ability to understand in real time, what are the offers, what are the products, what messaging is resonating and driving engagement and conversion through display channels, and having that personalization, those aspects then optimized and pushed out through channels where we don't necessarily get that feedback.
I learned a lot. And this whole space is fascinating.
Absolutely.
I mean, it evolves.
And it's changing all the time. It's super interesting.
It's crazy.
It keeps me on my toes, and I love it. Thank you for having me to tell you a little bit about this.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the listeners. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact my team at marketing@perion.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye-bye.